Hey everyone, this is Brainwaves, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you 5 ways to make your basses sound wider. So bear in mind that I have a utility at the end of the chain, because even though I want the bass sound to sound wider, I really don't want like the low end, meaning the sub bass, to be wide. I want that to be mono compatible, so I'm using the bass mono button in here just to avoid things getting wide below 200 Hz. That way my sub bass will be mono. So in this case I'm using Serum to make this sound, and as you can see I have span on the master, and I can see the mid and side information. This green spectrum is the mono or the mid information, and the yellow spectrum is the side information. And I also use a span in the master because this has a correlation meter. You basically want to stay in this green area and don't go into the negative. So it's pretty useful to have a span on the master just to check on the correlation meter and also on the spectrum itself. Basically, option number 1, it's to modify the patch itself to make it wider. So in this case I have two wavetables. The one that is having output is this one. This one has the level all the way down, and it has a filter in here, and so you can see that actually the filter has its own pan knob, so I can spread the filter into the stereo image, and that's one quick and cool way to make the sound wider. So let's take a look at the sound right now. And if I move the pan knob, you can see that it immediately made it wider. You also gotta be careful to not make the side information louder than the mono information or the mid information. So things like this overlap, red overlapping here, it's something that you gotta be careful. You don't want to see like a lot of red information going on in here, basically. Option number 2 would be to use chorus. You can see that right now without chorus it's pretty mono. We can activate chorus, and now it's wider, and I'm still good on the correlation meter. So with chorus you can play with the rate, the delays, the depth, the feedback, the mix. It's pretty important. If this was like 100% wet, it sounds really weird. So play with the parameters, and obviously keep checking span, the correlation meter, and the spectrum to make sure that things are good in phase wise. So all of these methods have like a different sound to them, and it will depend on what sound you want for your bass, so you can use different options for different needs. Option number 3 would be to use some widening plugin like Wider, which is a free third-party plugin from Infected Mushroom. So basically this is just like one knob kind of thing. You can see that I'm going to start from 0 and I'll start making it wider. So this one is pretty simple. You just adjust to whatever percentage you want to make it wider, and it does a pretty good job, to be honest. Option number 4 would be to use something called the haas effect, which is basically two delays, one on the left and one on the right, that are like pretty close to each other, and that creates this kind of widening effect. So to do that, you can grab the delay, make sure that it's on the time, not on sync but on time, and that it's not linked, so you can control each knob separately. Then you turn down the feedback and you adjust the dry wet, and you keep these two values pretty close to each other. You can see that in this example one of them it's at 3 milliseconds and the other is at 15 milliseconds. That's how you get this widening effect. If I start making one of the delays much longer than the other one, then you will lose that widening effect and it will start sounding like a normal delay, which is not what you want in this case. Also be careful with the dry wet. If you push it, it may be way too wide. As you can see in here, that it has like a lot of side information going louder than the mono information or the mid information. So be careful with that. Just play with the dry wet knob to be on a safe level. But yeah, that's a pretty useful one too. Last but not least, the last method would be to use some type of mid-side EQ. This would be more of like a method for just boosting like a certain frequency in the side spectrum. Basically, to use the mid-side EQ, you just double click, right click, and stereo placement, and you can put like mid or side, let's say side, and then you start playing with it. You can do the same but on the mid information and maybe reduce the mid information on some area. But yeah, this is more of like a meticulous way to boost certain frequencies on the side or the mid information. So that's pretty much it. I hope you learned something from this and I hope you can apply it into your music. Please leave a like, comment, and I'll see you around.